Good morning. We're going to continue with our Western Women's Reader. We're going to catch the moon setting. We have Wiley Dog with us today, so there's no telling what noises we'll get to have. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate you. Looks clear. Today we're on page 490, and this is Nancy Mairs, M-A-I-R-S, born 1943. What is it, Wiley Dog? My apologies. My primary audience member is staring at me. Okay, back to the point here. Nancy Mairs, 1943. Nancy Mairs was born in California in 1943, raised in New England, and then returned west to Tucson in 1972. 2 years later, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a chronic, incurable, degenerative disease of the central nervous system. In spite of physical hardship, she earned an MFA and a PhD at the University of Arizona, and more recently, an honorary doctorate from Wheaton College in 1994. When her daughter joined the Peace Corps, Mairs and her husband traveled to Zaire. Her output has been prodigious. Plain Text, 1986. Remembering the Bone House, 1989. Carnal Acts, 1990. Ordinary Time, Cycles in Marriage, Faith and Renewal, 1993. And Voice Lessons on Becoming a Woman Writer, 1994, making her one of the nation's leading feminist voices. At the conclusion of Waist High in the West, one of her best-known essays, she wrote, "The tale of westward migration has always been premised on possibility, but I moved into a west of impossibility. It's an honest-to-God western adventure I'm having here. Trust me." In the story reprinted here, Mairs and her husband joined with Catholic workers and others in Mercury, Nevada on November 8th, 1987 to celebrate Catholic radical Dorothy Day's birthday and get themselves arrested for protesting at the nuclear site. Alright, this is her writing, Nancy Mairs, titled Faith and Loving in Las Vegas, from her writing Carnal Acts from 1990, which was 35 years ago. That sound right? It's a freaking long time ago. And I was alive. Doesn't feel like it was that long time ago. All right, back to the focus that I'm here on, focusing on. We are all focusing. Faith and loving in Las Vegas. If we are here to be pilgrims for peace and justice, we must expect the desert. That was written by Dom Helder Camara. Lorenzo is holding my left hand and Jim is holding my right. Behind me, George holds hands with Jack and Mimi. the three together nudging the wheelchair forward. In the chill, bright desert air, our voices float up and mingle with those of the couple of hundred people still behind us. Be not afraid, I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. A plywood platform has been laid across the wide bars of the cattle guard. The wheelchair bumps up onto the plywood and rolls forward. We have crossed the line. We are the fourth group to cross. A dozen or more groups will follow us. We are Catholic workers who have gathered in Las Vegas from all over the country to celebrate the 90th anniversary of founder Dorothy Day's birth. We spent yesterday at the Catholic high school in the city, holding workshops and listening to speakers. Among them, Dom Helder Camara, the Brazilian Archbishop, whose labors for the political rights of the poor have transformed the church throughout the world. He is a figure for whom the simile bird-like might have been coined. A tiny, aged sparrow of a man in his tan cassock and wooden pectoral cross, his eyes small and bright above dark pouches, his slender fingers gnarled and curved. His accent is thick and his voice is creaky, making his message hard to decipher. But we all understood instantly and cheered when his right hand inscribing a wide arc above his head, he told us, "We cannot have a first world and a second world and a third world and a fourth world. We must create only one world." This morning, Don Helder, among us, was set out from the school in a long caravan across 60 miles of desert, past range after range of humped and spiny mountains, to the Nevada nuclear test site. Beneath this vast sweep of earth, tinted in colors the language has never quite captured, something like rose, like smoke, gray, green, buff. Beyond the barbed wire fence, the United States routinely sets off nuclear explosions, testing what is known already, that we can kill off them 100-fold any time they step out of line. To protest the deadly, provocative desire these explosions signify, some of us have chosen to trespass on the site, others to blockade access to it with their bodies, still others to line the route and provide support. Although we trespassers are entering federal land, which is taxpayers we have helped to pay for, we are denied any rights in it. We, like the blockaders, know that we will be arrested for our act. Those of us from Casa Maria, the Catholic worker house in Tucson, have clustered together. Despite nearly 2 decades of social activism, George and I have never committed civil disobedience before, and we are glad to be surrounded by loving and oft-arrested friends. We have been joined for the crossing by Fred and Mimi, a couple in their 60s. Mimi's a writer, and now that he's retired from social work, Fred, his polio-damaged legs patched up with steel and Teflon, cooks for the soup kitchen at St. Joseph's on Manhattan's Lower East Side. Once, he's just been telling us, the soup kitchen came into a load of brie, a dozen or more wheels, and then the hungry and homeless at St. Joseph's got vegetable crepes with brie for lunch. The workers found one of the women who lives there seated on her pallet on the floor in her nightgown, with a whole wheel of brie in her lap, gazing far into some other world as she consumed it, bite by bite, with a teaspoon. Facing the group of us, the sheriff of Nye County, a slim man with graying temples, says, "First, I'm going to ask you do not... First, I am going to ask you not to do this." We say nothing. "Then I'm going to tell you that if you do it, I will have to arrest you for trespassing." He met our eyes. "Do you all understand that?" "Yes," we answered. "Yes, we understand." I don't, I discover. Feel as though I'm responding to a question. I feel more the way I do during a baptism, when we break the Nicene Creed into questions and answers. Do you believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen? The priest asks at that time, and the people respond, "I do." Here, acknowledging that I understand that this weathered man with his tired eyes is going to arrest me. Sounds oddly like a profession of faith. Deputies began to handcuff the members of our group. I had envisioned clanking metal circles, the sort that marshals might carry, or the sort that marshals might use to subdue great train robbers. But these are plastic straps, like elongated versions of the fasteners we use to close our trash bags before lugging them out to the alley. I hold my wrists up to be strapped, but the deputy passes me over. "I'd like to be handcuffed too," I say. My voice sounds ridiculously sedate, as though I just asked for 2 lumps of sugar in my tea. Little did my grandmother suspect, when she drilled me in the tones of a Yankee lady, that I'd find them handy when I got arrested. The deputy shakes his head. "The sheriff doesn't want you handcuffed." Just then the sheriff looked down at me. "We can't take you in there," he says. "We can't handle a wheelchair on the bus." "It's all right," I tell them. Don't worry, I can walk a little. I'll get out of the wheelchair and climb on the bus." Excuse me. Plainly, he's not happy, but he assents. "My wheelchair," I say. "You will take care of it for me. You won't let anything happen to it, will you?" I haven't for an instant felt afraid of mistreatment by these somber, uniformed men. But suddenly I'm scared they might punish me through my wheelchair. Don't worry, we'll take good care of it. It's hard, George discovers, to push a wheelchair across gravel with your hands in cuffs. With Lorenzo, Jim, and Jack helping out, we make a drunken progress toward the bus. Mimi has her cuffed hands full helping Fred, who can't use his Canadian crutch with his hands bound. I don't know how he managed to get handcuffs and I didn't. I suppose it was because he was erect and I was folded up. There is a subtle taxonomy of crippledness. At the bus, I'm glad I didn't have handcuffs on, though. The steps are very steep, and even holding on to railings on either side, with people in front and back of me for support, I can barely haul myself up. I will be sore for days. Fred has a hard time, too. We can see, but he makes it. George and I are given the front seat. He clutches my hand. In a broad-brimmed straw hat and bug-eyed sunglasses and a UCLA sweatshirt, he looks funny and boyish. Well, I say, squeezing his hand in return, this is it. We're across. Why, I find myself wondering in the first elated rush at being safely on the other side. Have we postponed for so long crossing the line between peaceful protest and non-violent direct action? For me, the progression first, from apathy to protest, and now from protest to civil disobedience, seems hooked somehow to the lives of my children. I crossed that first line in the autumn of 1969, about 6 months after the birth of my second child, Matthew, when I spotted a full-page advertisement in the Boston Sunday Globe protesting the war in Vietnam. Something jolted me then, as it never had before, like a sudden electrical connection. Perhaps it was the presence of a small, squalling, draftable boy whom I was supposed to raise to kill for his country. Whatever the reason, the following day I called the telephone number printed at the bottom of that page. Therefore, the small boy and his slightly larger sister riding on our backs and shoulders, George and I began a life of moderate activism. In the intervening years, as the boy and his sister grew astonishingly, we've attended meetings, painted posters, picketed Army and Air Force bases, stood in candlelight vigils. In 1970, we worked to erect an anti-war candidate, the Jesuit priest Robert Drennan, to Congress. We've written letters to editors and legislators. We've boycotted grapes and Campbell products in support of the United Farm Workers. A decade ago, having found a community of people living out their values in ways that inspired us, excuse me, we converted to Roman Catholicism and later joined Catholics for peace and justice. We helped to provide food for the hungry, shelter for the homeless, clothing, household equipment, and medical supplies for the poor in Tucson and Central America. Excuse me. I've had my allergy medicine. It's weird to have to take allergy medicine in the middle of a winter. Alright, continue. To support their economic self-sufficiency, we buy Nicaraguan coffee and crafts made by cooperatives throughout the world. These are worthy enough gestures, and I don't think I'm debasing them by pointing out that they're easy enough as well. They're safe. We may have encountered, familial disapproval and the skepticism of friends, but only rarely have we been physically accosted, and no one has ever threatened to haul us off to jail. I think that this sense of safety was important to me while I had dependent children. To risk going to jail seemed irresponsible to me, while I had to provide for their daily needs. But now Annie has gone off to the Peace Corps. Matthew, at 18, has moved out of the house. In fact, he is struggling just now to decide whether or not to register for the draft. And 6 months after his 18th birthday, here I am in Mercury, Nevada, stepping up my activism, stepping across the line in my path, or in this case, rolling across the next cattle guard. When the bus is full, we drive a quarter of a mile or so up a straight road, stopping beside a long, white trailer. At one end, an area fenced off by posts and wire holds a galvanized metal trash barrel, a couple of white rent-a-cans, and the first bus loads of the arrested. George and I wait for the others to get off. Just as we are about to follow, a security officer tells me, "You stay right here. We'll ticket you on the bus." I look at George. I look out the window at the crowd in the pen. "I don't want to be separated from the others," I say. "I don't want to be left alone. I want to get off the bus." "There's no place for you to sit." And he's right. My wheelchair is back at the crossing. "I'll sit on the steps," I say. "Or we can turn the trash barrel over and I'll sit on that. I'll sit on one of the toilets. Please, I don't want to be left." The security officer glances at George, who nods and shrugs. As I head for the steps, the bus driver starts speaking to me softly. "Do you know what they really do here?" he asks. "They test drugs to help people like you." Actually, no one I know of is working on multiple sclerosis at the atomic level, but I believe that medical research goes on here. 80% of the testing has nothing to do with weapons. It's the 20% I'm here about. I find myself speaking softly, too. That's the part that scares me. Some people express anger at his laying such a trip on me, but though I'm shocked, I don't feel angry. I feel touched. He tried to reach out for me as best he can. I get separated from the others, whether I want to or not. A stolid woman in brown trousers and a striped blouse leads me to the steps, exiting the trailer. At the opposite end from the holding pen, those in the pen cheer me as I walk away, and I shrink inwardly in embarrassment. People with whole bodies sometimes mistake cripples for heroes. They forget that I'm doing just what they're doing, only more clumsily. Such self-depreciation denies, however, my real use to them as an emblem of the value of this action. What they are doing is hard. My presence assures them that it is not too hard, that all of us can do whatever we must, here, now, and wherever else we are called. This seems a good enough use to be put to. Seating me on the gray wooden steps, the woman writes me a ticket for trespassing on federal land. After being advised not to, in quotes, the fine is $250 plus a $65 processing fee. My court date is December 21, 1987. Some people are giving false identification. Many, for this birthday celebration, are being Dorothy Day. But I have decided, this time at least, against non-cooperation. Naming myself accurately feels like taking responsibility for my act. When she has finished filling in the blanks and given me my pink copy, she tells me to get back on the bus. I hesitate, looking over at the others. I can't see George. Go on, she says. You can't stay out here. It's not safe. I am inclined to balk, but as the sheriff's reluctance to arrest me and my brief interchange with the bus driver have demonstrated, my reality is skewed from the others. I want to be treated exactly like them. In truth, though, I am not exactly like them. I'm getting more and more different from them, almost by the day. I can't divorce myself, morally or otherwise, from my failing body. I am she, and I have, as a consequence, some responsibilities they can't even grasp. Hell, I can scarcely grasp them myself. All I know is that my crossing the line bears another kind of weight from theirs. It is not a straightforward individual act of civil disobedience. Like it or not, I cross not foremost as a private citizen, but as a representative of those people who, despite their disparities, get lumped as the result of their physical disabilities into a single class. Poor people. They haven't asked me to represent them. Most of them would probably shudder at the very idea. But in a sense, here we all are on a Sunday morning, out in the middle of the Nevada desert. Whatever I do will reflect on them. I feel constrained to be a good cripple, cheerful and patient, so that whoever might roll along in my wake someday will find the way eased, a stance wholly at odds with the disobedience I am here to practice. I don't know how to resolve this conflict, which has me cut off, quite literally, from the other demonstrators, leaving me as sober and bleak as the landscape I admire from the bus window. The furthest mountain range, bluish and blurred, marks the southern lip of Death Valley. The bus driver explains to me. He is friendly now, maybe conciliatory, though not apologetic. Slowly the bus is filling. A beautiful young security officer called Bambi jumps up the steps. One of the demonstrators practicing non-cooperation has given her a hard time, and she flushed from the chasing after him each time he has wandered off toward the desert. Which one of you is Dorothy, the one who gave me the cross? She calls out. The white-haired woman across the aisle from me raises her hand. I just wanted to thank you and give you a hug, says Bambi, grinning. Because don't tell anyone I did that or I'll get taken off the line. They know I love this duty, so that's how they punish me if I act up. Once they caught me singing and dancing with the people on the bus and they took me off for 6 months. We laugh and applaud her. I wish George were with me. I don't feel alarmed by our separation, as I often do, because I know that everyone here will watch over me until we're back together. In that sense, though, I don't know anyone in this group. I am not among strangers. But I want everything happening here to happen to us together. That's the mark of marriage for me. George's presence roots me more deeply in my own experience. As if my wish had power, he climbs on the bus and hugs me quickly before heading for the last seat in the back. The doors close and we turn back to the entrance, stopping there to pick up my wheelchair. If we can put it on the bus now, I don't see why we couldn't have had it with us all along. Oh well, we are driven back across the line, past the cheering group of demonstrators who have chosen not to be arrested, and the silent group of counter-demonstrators and site workers who are on strike, to the area where we left our cars. George settles me in the wheelchair and, tilting me back, rolls me away from the road. Looking up, I see a white van with the door open. Dom Helder perched on the front seat. I wave to him, and he waves back. We have made a round trip across the line and back again, and yet I know that in a way we can never come back. A line once crossed can never be uncrossed. We have, in trespassing, entered new moral terrain, and we will inevitably be transformed in it. Though it's too early to tell precisely how. I can glimpse a couple of points already, though. I can tell, for one thing, that I am not the same woman who took up her posters and candles to protest the Vietnam War in 1969. In those days, I believed in the efficacy of action. I believed that if I and others like me protested emphatically enough, we could sway all right-minded people to our point of view. We could create change. And in a limited way, the only way I started out knowing, I guess I was right. In large measure, because of the pressure of popular opinion. The role of the United States in the war in Southeast Asia's ground to its ugly and dishonorable close. Perhaps I even believed then that, having learned the error of such ways, the United States would turn utterly from war as a means of structuring human relationships. I was awfully young, remember? Not even 30, and even more ignorant than I am today. Now, I'm not at all sure that I can do anything to prevent the evil, of which nuclear weapons testing, like CIA covert activities, the tradings of arms for hostages, the building of B-1 bombers, the gobbling of federal funds for so-called, quote, defense, rather than the enhancement of human life, is only an emblem which gnaws at the world's heart. I just don't know. I've come up here to the wilderness to plant my feet on the other side of an invisible line and earn a black mark on my hitherto unbesmirched record without the promise of anything in return. Anything at all. This terrain seems, at least from where I stand now, foggy and rugged indeed. We are time-ridden and ends-addicted society, and no action is valued unless it produces results. By this standard, I have just committed a non-action. I have just wasted my time. I must be a fool. And yet, smiling foolishly up into Dom Helder's little wrinkled fool's face, I feel certain that something's happening here. I can't change the world. I got lucky once and helped to stop a war, but the world didn't change. The fact that I still confuse Nixon and Reagan is more than a slip of the tongue or the sign of a loose cog somewhere. The men in power and the women beginning to join them are beyond the personal level, indistinguishable. Republican/Democrat, American/Russian, Protestant/Catholic/Muslim/Jew, black/white/yellow/red/brown, all tend to run together. They all thrive on the adrenaline rush triggered by believing one is menaced by an enemy. They project enemies right and left to maintain the high. I've got no thrill to offer them to keep their juices pumping like that. Why then do anything at all? If I really believe that no act of mine can break the addiction of those in power, why not lapse into quiescence, accept the world as it is, make the best of a bad thing? Because I have begun to recognize the possibility of relating differently to that world. In the role of witness, I am being transformed by this new understanding from a hot young crusader into a bony finger pointing. Here, the body I have permitted to be arrested testifies. We are doing wrong. Here, we have been unjust. Let's choose another life. If those in power choose over my testimony to blow the world to smithereens instead, I'll be lost with all the rest. I don't believe that right choice confers immunity. I no longer believe in reward. I simply believe that choices must be made regardless of their chances of success. And so I come here. The other point I've begun to decry is that all through... Hang on, let me get this straight. Okay, we have one page left. Excuse me, Lord. The other point I've begun to decry is that although I was arrested for stepping into a giant ring of barbed wire, my true direction is outward. This is not a new movement, of course, but a leap along the trajectory of one I began years ago. I've been shoved and spat on and given the finger, and in my own more polite circle of family and friends, sighed over, plenty often enough to know that my beliefs do not hold social sway. But my act of civil disobedience has further shrunk the circle of people who understand and share my commitment. I could swagger and say that all others don't matter, but the fact is that they do. Though I don't care much anymore for the world's approval, I yearn for its understanding. Now I've increased the distance between myself and most of the people I come into contact with. They may write me off as a zealot or a crank. A position on society's margins strengthens one's capacity for the kind of witness I've chosen. I know. All the same, I'm feeling lonely and a little scared. I shiver. George helps me pull on a heavy black sweater and hands me an apple and some almonds. Late at night, back in Tucson, the weekend's images and insights tumble over and over inside my skull, each turn polishing them to new clarity. In time, I will add them to my hoard. They will travel with me across the next line and the next. Ahead, I've got a lot of moral territory to explore. I know. From where I stand at the foot of my bed, tugging my arms out of my sweater, that territory stretches boundlessly, as shadowy and severe as I imagine the test site to lie at this moment under tonight's full moon. This sense of vastness both daunts and exhilarates me. In my earliest activist days, I'm sure I thought that by the time I was 44, I'd have all life's ambiguity sorted out and resolved. Now I know that such work goes on forever. To finish it not only isn't possible, but more important, isn't even the point. That was a fine experience, I mumbled to George through the folds of the nightgown I'm struggling into. Thank you for pushing me to it and through it. I guess I can't even get arrested by myself anymore. Oh, I don't know. He and the black cat have already snuggled down under the covers, and his voice is muffled by blankets and sleep. Knowing you the way I do, I think you'd manage to find some way to get arrested on your own. Doubtless he's right, but why, after all, would I want to? Getting arrested, like any of life's necessary tasks, is eased and enriched by company, and one cannot make the world's peace by its very nature in solitude. Peace must be woven intentionally, meticulously, clasped hand by clasped hand, across all the desert spaces between us, holding hands with the black cat tucked between us, George and I sleep. Her further readings are Nancy Mairs, Waist High in the World, A Life Among the Non-Disabled. Another in the Stories That Shape Us, Contemporary Women Write About the West. I have to say, that was just amazing. I'm going to dedicate this one to my friends over in Pawnee County. And I appreciate you. Thank you for being with me today. Here's a picture of our book for those who are dying to own a copy of this. Have a beautiful day.